employee through the applicant tracking side, it will transition that employee right into the paperless onboarding solution that the MP team will offer. So it's a very streamlined process from pre-hire into actually hiring the employee. So today we're going to focus on how do you guys find the candidates and what avenues can you actually use to post your jobs out to the different job boards through. So when logging into the isolved track and hire technology, you're immediately brought into a dashboard view. And this is a nice overview for you guys. So ultimately, it gives you some nice metrics. It shows you recent activity, conversion effectiveness, and then, of course, with any good applicant tracking component, it's important to track the different sources of where your candidates may be applying from. So from a return of investment standpoint, this is a nice opportunity for you guys to see not only where you're getting your candidates from, but where you're getting your best candidates from. Because just because I'm getting a bunch of candidates from one specific job board doesn't mean that I'm turning those candidates into actually new hires. So here I can see from the most applicants, yeah, I'm getting 10 applicants or 20 applicants recently from Indeed. But out of those 20 applicants, only 2 of those have actually turned into new employees. We've actually hired 2 people. So that's a 1 to 10 ratio or 10 to 1 ratio. So for over here under the best applicants per hire ratio, I can now see that, look, I'm getting better candidates. I'm not getting as many candidates from Glassdoor, but for every 2 candidates that I'm getting from Glassdoor, 1 of those is turning into a new hire. So it's a 2 to 1 ratio. So maybe in that case, instead of posting out to Indeed, you may want to decide to devote more marketing dollars towards Glassdoor because you're getting better candidates and more new hires from that specific job posting. So just an easy way to see from a high level standpoint based upon the different sources of where you guys decide to post your jobs out to. You can see ultimately where you're getting the best candidates from. Now at the top is kind of where your menu items appear. So it's kind of easily laid out. You have your applicants page, you have your job page, you have reports, and we'll kind of run through all this for you guys today. But under jobs, it's important for you guys to see what's what's available within the technology to build out your jobs. So what do you want your jobs to look like when you post them out to those different job boards? So the job listing screen is just going to give me a list of all my open jobs. So I can see right now I have, quite a few jobs that are currently active. Excuse me, 32 open jobs. I can see the date each job was made active. I can see what department or location that job's attached to. And then over here at the far right, I can see how many applicants I have for each specific job so far. Now, the great thing is before you create a job listing, you first have to create what's called a job template. And the reason we allow you to create a job template is because this is a way to streamline the process going forward. So by building out the template, every time you want to open up a new job for, let's say, the financial analyst position, you don't have to create the job from scratch. You already have the template built out, so that way you're just simply referencing the template each time you want to open up that same job going forward. So when you're building out the template, all you're really doing is including the verbiage of what the job is going to look like. So when the candidate goes to apply, what do you want that candidate to see when they go to apply for that job? And that's typically where we're going to build in things like your, responsibilities and duties, qualification, skill sets, company overview. So your typical job posting, your job descriptions, that's really what you're building into the template. And once again, by doing this up front, every time you want to open up and create a job for that financial position looking for candidates, you're just going to reference the template going forward. So you don't have to recreate the job from scratch each and every time. Now, in addition to building out a template, you also have the ability to build in what are called job questions. And these are questions that can get attached to specific job postings. So when a candidate goes to apply for a specific job, you can ask them a couple specific questions regarding the job that they're applying for. So here's a list of these questions that are attached to the financial analyst position. So every time we post out a job for the financial analyst, the candidate will have to complete these questions during the application process. Now, you do notice some of these questions over here to the right are flagged as disqualifiers. Sean mentioned earlier how the system can eliminate candidates that aren't a good fit by using disqualification questions. This is where that comes into play. So if you're looking for somebody to have a 4-year degree and they say, no, I do not have a 4-year degree, it can automatically disqualify the candidate for that specific job. So it's an easy way to help weed out candidates that aren't a good fit because they don't meet certain criteria that the job is requiring of that candidate. So if you have jobs that require certain things, a certification, a license, be able to work nights and weekends, driver's license, things like that, build that into the questionnaire. And then that way, if the candidate doesn't answer the question accordingly, it can disqualify the candidate for you guys. It can kind of move them to the list where, hey, yeah, they're still in the system, so you can review them, but they're not on your active candidate list because they're not meeting specific requirements of that job itself. And then when it is time to open up a new job, pretty simple. You hit the plus sign on the listings tab itself. And this is where you're just referencing that template. So I'll choose that financial analyst. So everything I've built into the template now gets brought in the listing itself. So a very easy way to create a new job because you already have the template built out. Now with that, there is the ability to build in specific information for that job posting, like, pay information, start information, benefit information, employment type. You can assign it to a specific location, department, team of individuals, things like that. And then at the very bottom, it gives you the ability to proceed to the advertising page. Now, with the advertising options, this technology provides a lot of different ways that you can advertise your jobs out to. We have over 4,000 job boards incorporated into the technology itself. Out of those 4,000 job boards, about 1,500 of those job boards are offered at no additional charge. And that does include the likes of Monster, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, Indeed. They all provide free or organic job postings, but of course, they all provide paid and sponsored versions as well. So once again, it comes back to what is the budget set in place for that job posting itself. To show you what job boards are available, we can come out here for this position. We can see, all right, we can post out to our social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. You notice based upon the Facebook groups, it's bringing in local Facebook groups as well. So based upon the location of where the job is attached to, the system says, all right, you're in this location, looks like you're in Utah. Let's include or give you the option to post out to some local Facebook groups in Utah for the job postings. So you can not only post out to just Facebook in general, but you can also advertise to local Facebook groups based upon the location of where that job is located. There's also the ability to do referrals. You can track referrals. So if your company offers any sort of referral bonus to internal employees for referring candidates to open jobs within the organization, you can capture that. There's a referral portal where your employees can log into and see all the open jobs, and they can create a referral link where they can pull or send that out to their coworker or to a friend, and when that person applies, they can track that it came in through this specific employee. So that way you're tracking those, candidates by internal employee referrals. And then that way, if you decide to hire that candidate and you give a bonus, you now know what that bonus is going to look like to that internal employee. In addition to posting out to social media sites, you can also push it out to those different job boards. So here's, we have Indeed sponsored here. Here's some use credits where you're posting out to usually some state-specific job boards or even college job boards. For those that are familiar with the Handshake, the system does support the Handshake integration. And what a Handshake is, it's really just a free service you can sign up for that allows you to post out to college job boards. So by signing up for the Handshake, it gives you options to, I'm not going to say every college job board, but majority of the college job boards out there do support the Handshake connectivity. And at the bottom, it gives me some of those direct charge. So here we've identified Career Builder, Diversity, Idealist, Monster, 30-Day, Snag a Job. And you can kind of see the cost because these are more the paid and sponsored versions. And then at the bottom is where it brings in some of those additional free job boards as well. And you can determine what job boards you want to post out to all from this one screen. Now, you notice here, this is not the full list of the 4,000 job boards. So what you've done is you've kind of created a favorites list under the direct charge. So these are the favorite job boards that you typically would post out to. So that way, when you want to post out a new job, you don't have to go through the full list of 4,000 job boards. You have your truncated list of maybe 10, 15, 20 popular job boards that you guys would typically advertise out to. Now, to add to that list, it's pretty easy. You can simply come into the job board favorites tab, and that's where I'm going to do some of my favorite job boards. When I hit the plus sign, this is where you can search from well over the 4,000 job boards. And this gives you the functionality to search by keyword. You can search some state-specific job boards. You can search some industry-specific job boards. Or if you have a set budget in place that, hey, we can't spend more than this on a specific job posting, you can put in the maximum dollar amount. That way, it's only going to bring in job boards within inside of your budget. So once again, it's giving you guys multiple ways to advertise. And on top of that, not only can you post out to social media, post out to these different job boards, but the system also can create what's called a career site. And a career site is a branded site that you can link and reference back into your website. So ultimately, you can actually have candidates come right to your website. They can see the open jobs. They can click on the job. They can see the description of the job. And over here to the right, it gives them easy access to apply for the job right through your website as well. So you don't have to just rely on using job boards. You can actually have these jobs posted directly back into your website as well using their career site option. And the nice thing is no matter where you're posting and advertising your jobs out to, they all filter back into one centralized portal for you and your management team to review and kind of walk through the hiring process for those potential candidates themselves. Now, a couple other nice features within the technology that could be made available. You can do job requisitions where a manager can say, hey, I need to hire somebody for my team, so they can submit a requisition. And it then has to go to maybe the HR team for the approval before that job gets posted. So you can do requisitions. You can also do text to apply. This is a fairly new feature that rolled out not too long ago. It gives candidates the ability to basically send a text message to a number, and then it can give them the ability to apply right through the text messaging. And there's different ways you can advertise it out where we'll have the number and be custom branded to your company's logos and stuff like that. So just an easy way to do the text to hire versus logging into a computer through a smartphone and applying for the job that way. So that's a little bit of what it looks like to create the jobs and post those jobs out to the different advertising options. What does it look like for you guys to review and manage the candidates once they've applied? Well, under the applicants tab, this is where it's going to bring in a list of all your active applicants. Now at the top, you do have some filtering options. Right now, we're only bringing in active applicants. We can easily bring in archived applicants, which are applicants that are maybe no longer active, but they're still maintained in the system. You can also bring in, right now, it's just going to show me qualified. I can show those candidates that were disqualified using those knockout questions. Because once again, the system's not going to delete the candidate even though they were disqualified. It just moves them into a different status because that candidate, yeah, they may not be a good fit for this specific role, but they may be a better fit for a different position that you had in mind for that candidate. So you still have access to see that candidate and assign that candidate to a new job if that's the route you want to go with at that point as well. So you will still have access to all candidates, whether they were qualified or disqualified. But this is my list right now. I think I have like 9 active applicants. I can see the applicant's name. I can see the date they've applied, what job they've applied for. And over here, right, there's a status list. And this is a nice feature for you and your internal team because this allows you guys to identify where you're at in your hiring process. This is a configurable list, so it is pre-populated with some information just by default, but it is your list. You can add and remove from this list as needed. So it's a way for you guys to kind of mirror match up with what the steps are involved in your current hiring process. So at any point in time, you can pull up your candidate and see kind of exactly what's going on with the candidate based upon their status. Now, with the status changes, there are some workflows that can be built in on the back end. And this allows communications not only to internal team members, but also potentially to the candidate based upon status changes as well. So when Sean talked about communication, streamline communications to the candidates, this is one way that you can do that via the status changes. You can always keep your candidates up to date with what's going on every time you change the status if need be. But to review a candidate, simply click on the candidate's name and it takes you directly to the candidate's profile. So Anthony Clark is my candidate. I can see his demographic information here at the top. I can see the date he applied, what job he applied for, and then it's going to track that source for me. So in this case, it's going to show me that this candidate came in through Indeed. Now, when the candidate goes to apply, depending on how they're applying, they can apply in one of 2 different ways. One is they can simply upload a resume. And that's really all they have to do. Yeah, they have to create an account, but they'll have to upload a resume. They don't have to fill out an application. They just simply upload the resume. If the system or if the employee does upload or the candidate uploads a resume, the system can parse the resume for you guys. So it actually breaks apart the employment history below. It can break out the education background right off the resume, or it just gives you full access to see the resume that was uploaded. If they don't upload a resume, then that's where the application process can come into play. You can actually have a true application be built in. So when they go to apply, they have to key in their work history, their employment history, references, things like that through a true application. So it kind of depends. And that doesn't have to be the same for every job. Some jobs maybe it's going to be a salaried position, white collar, more management, where you just want them to upload a resume. And then another role may be more of a blue collar hourly employee where resume probably isn't what they have. They just want to apply for the job, and you can simply just allow those individuals to do the application process as well. The job questions allow you to see the answers to those knockout questions. So there's those questions, and I can see how the candidate answered those questions accordingly. With assessments, the system does have some nice integrations with some different vendors for different things like assessment testing. So here's one vendor, selective hiring. So if you want to do assessment testing, there's some different vendors that the system has integrations with where you can actually push out an assessment and have the candidate complete the assessment, and then it gives you the results of those assessments right back in the candidate's profile. Wedge is the video interviewing. So if there's any type of video interviewing you want to do, we rely on Wedge, which is a third-party integration to do the video interviewing. If you want to do any sort of drug and background screening, the system has a great integration with Pro Screening. It's kind of a sister company to Attract and Hire, where you can order different types of background checks and or drug testing. So they kind of can create some packages based upon what your needs and wants would be as far as background screening and drug testing. But for drug testing, I do know that they offer a 5 and a 10 panel drug test. Onboarding is where we decide if this is the individual that you're going to hire. This is where you would transition that candidate into a new employee. And this is where we're going to start the onboarding process. And in doing so, the system takes that candidate's information, moves it into a new employee perspective, and then ultimately generates an email to that new employee for them to finish up the onboarding process. And the great thing with onboarding is they can do that from any device. So whether they want to log in through a computer, through their smartphone, through a tablet, it doesn't really matter. From the employee's experience going through onboarding, they'll be able to onboard themselves as long as they can access the internet. And that's the same thing for the application process as well. It's 100% mobile friendly. So if they want to apply for a job through their smartphone, they can go and apply for a job through their smartphone. If they want to do it through a tablet or computer, once again, it just simply adapts to whatever size device the employee is logging in from. It doesn't really matter what device, as long as they can access the internet, they can actually apply for a job. The last thing that you can see on the candidate's profile from this page here is under eForms. This is where the system gives you the capabilities of pushing out letters or documentation to your potential new employee. So in this case, we generated an offer letter. And in this case, we had multiple approvers on the offer letter. So what happens is when the offer letter gets generated, it got sent to the manager. The manager reviews it and they sign off on the offer letter. It then gets sent to the CFO for their approval, then to the CEO, and then to the candidate as the final signature. And if you wanted to view or print the offer letter, you can open it up from here. And this is an example of what the offer letter could look like. It can be fully configured with your branding, your logos, your wording. It's really just open-ended. And then you can see all the different approvers and when they were approved. Great thing with all this documentation that's being captured from the new employee or from the candidate's perspective is if you decide to transition that candidate into a new hire, it's going to bring all that documentation into the new employee profile. So it's now going to be stored into that employee's profile going forward as a new employee within the technology. Now, there are some other nice things that kind of make it easy for you guys to find candidates in the system. There's the ability to add tags, and you can create your own custom tags. So that way, if you wanted to tag somebody as, bilingual or Spanish speaking, then you can tag them with the tag. And then anytime you want to search for a candidate, you can search by, here at the top, you can search by applicant, you can search by name, you can search by tag, keywords, first name, last name, email address. It gives you a lot of search functionality to find candidates that, you may have forgot about, or maybe you just weren't aware that they had a certain skill set or certain keyword attached to them. And the nice thing with keywords is based upon what shows up in the actual application process, whether it was parts from the resume or whether they completed it through the application process, you can search for keywords directly off of their profile. So yeah, it may not be a tag, but if they have a certain skill set that they've identified, you can search for that skill set and it will find every candidate that has that keyword attached to their profile. So it doesn't have to just be you guys tagging the candidate. It can actually go in and search with what the candidate submitted during the application or the resume process. Another way to communicate to your candidates is here at the top is you can send them a message. You can send them a message via email and or via text message. I think most days or nowadays, most companies seem to have better responses back from candidates via text messaging. Almost everybody has a smartphone in their hand at all times, so it's just easier to send a text message sometimes. But it gives you the options. And the great thing is no matter how you guys communicate to your candidates, here at the top is going to give you a history of all the communications, and it even shows you where the communication came from. So these were sent via email. Here's one that was sent via text message. And it will even include the candidate's response in there as well. So they responded back to the email via text message. It'll capture that response under the communication component as well. So putting you guys in full control, full, viewing of all the communications that were sent to and from a specific candidate. You can add notes. These are internal notes. You can even tag other team members with these notes. So if there's another team member that you just want to, hey, I want you to take a look at this candidate. I think they may be a good fit for your department. Tag that team member. They'll get a notification and they can log in and they can review the candidate's information. If you ever wanted to print out information, You can choose what you wish to print out. It gives you some different options here. And then under actions, there's several items that the system can offer, but the one I always like to focus on here is the schedule a calendar event. And this is where your team, specifically the hiring manager or the interviewing manager can link in their Outlook or Google Calendar using Chronify. And that what that allows you guys to do is to easily push out available time slots that you wanted to schedule an interview with that candidate with. So I can say, hey, I want to schedule an interview with Anthony. It pushes the email out to Anthony. Anthony clicks on the email, opens it up, and now it says, hey, we need you to, we'd love to do an interview. Please select one of the available time slots from below that works best for you. And that way, it's only going to list the available time slots based upon your external calendar. And that way, once they reserve that time slot, it blocks out that time slot on your external calendar as well. So just prevents you guys from having to do that back and forth on, hey, here's the times I'm available, what times are you available? And then if, maybe they're not available at those time slots and you have to send a whole new set of time slots, here, just push out your availability and let the candidate choose one of those time slots that works best for them. So as you see, a lot of information is available within the candidate's profile. Really gives you guys full access, full control over this information. Now, as you have other team members managing the candidate's information, you don't have to give them access to everything. Like there are different security roles that you can build in. So as an HR person or maybe the recruiting person, I can see everything, but then my hiring managers have somewhat limited access to the candidate's information. So you can restrict what your other users of the platform can see and do on a specific candidate's profile. Now, from a reporting standpoint, the system offers about 30 to 40 default or canned reports that are already kind of pre-configured and pre-built out for your team to pull from. It gives you a lot of source tracking, the all-important time to fill, time to hire. How long does it take you guys to hire an employee from the time they apply to the time they marked as hired? You have all your EEO1 reporting. So a lot of nice reporting tools already built in for you guys. So quite a few reports. Now, if there's a specific report that you're looking for, there's a report builder tool. And this gives you full access to custom build your own reports, and you can choose what columns you want brought into that report. So I can bring in certain information from the applicant application data. Maybe I want to bring in a status or archive date or resume score. I can bring that in. Once I bring those fields over to the right, I can drag and drop where they appear in my list. I can then reference other tables. So I can bring in something from the candidate's information table. Then I can bring something in from, the education table. Once again, full control over all the information, drag and drop. And then once you hit next, it can generate the report on the screen, but gives you the ability to export that report in Excel or PDF as well. On top of that, there are some nice analytics. So there's a couple other dashboards that are built in. So here's a conversion dashboard, starts versus views, completes versus starts. I can see some pipeline reporting. I can see it broken down by job. So this is, open jobs by department. I can see my source reporting. And then I have my time to fill and time to hire views. On top of that, you can also generate some analytics off of, where are people leaving the process as far as, once they upload a resume, do they finish up the rest of the application process? Or when they get to the EEOC page, are they stopping and not finishing the component? So you can kind of see if there's any part of your application process that is the exit rate is just extremely large. Like you don't want your exit rate on the instructions page to be very large because that means people aren't getting past the instructions. You want to try to keep it as simple as possible. So this is an easy way to show you if there's one area of your application process that is people are just dropping off, like they're not completing, they're not even finishing the application process. So some nice tools with that as well. So as you see with the attract and hire, there's a lot of nice functionality. It gives you guys access to over 4,000 different job boards. Some are paid, some are free. Gives you access to your social media sites, even being able to post back into your website. But once again, the great thing is no matter where your candidates are applying from, it gives you one centralized location to manage all of your applicants from. And then if you do decide to hire the candidate, you would then transition that candidate into a new hire directly from inside of their profile. So for today, hopefully everybody saw a nice overview of kind of what attract and hire can offer to your specific organization. I know every company's a little bit different on, where they apply or where they post jobs out to, what the hiring process looks like. but the system gives you a lot of nice functionality because it can be configured specifically for your business. So it doesn't have to be, hey, you have to change the way you're doing things. It can adapt and kind of follow along with what your current process is, but it just streamlines it because it just transitions it into, that new employee profile once you decide to hire the candidate. So you're going to keep it all within inside of one single solution at that point. So at this point, I thought what we can do is, potentially open it up for any questions. So if anybody had any questions, Sean, I don't know if anybody had listed questions as we were going through it, but if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A on your WebEx and list your questions, and we'll make sure we get them answered.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Steve. Currently, there's no questions in there, but we'll give it a little bit of time as people digest the information, the great information that you provided. Again, a great solution to remove some of these roadblocks that we see in a tight labor market, where you need to have an automated workflow process to cut down on the amount of time that it takes to bring people on, which should also turn into return on investment and ultimately retention. So that's ultimately what we want. So give it a few more seconds, but what we can do is, there you go. Go ahead and bring up. Oh, can you push? I think, Steve, can you make me the presenter?
Oh, yep, sorry.
Yep, appreciate it.
Yep, there you go.
Perfect. All right, so lastly, we'll just open it up to a thank you for everybody for joining. We really appreciate your time. For more information, Audrey Aldrich is going to be your point of contact over at MP. And Audrey, if you wanted to say a few things at this moment, floor is yours.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sean. Great demo. We really appreciate it. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, and I'm not sure if I'm seeing this correctly, I think Skyla Rice might have a question. Sean, do you see that?
Oh.
Am I?
Let me check.
Or Skyla, can you hear us? Did you have a question?
I am having an issue with this right now.
Yeah,
I know that
it, Sean. Yeah, it just said she didn't have any questions.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, okay.
That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, or if you would like any additional information, my contact information is shared on the screen right there, and I would be happy to assist in any way possible.
All right. Well, perfect. Thank you, everyone, for joining. At this time, we'll end the meeting. But I just want to thank everyone for joining. Have a great day.